Hi everyone. So today I thought I would talk about the fact that we are all looking for answers. We are all looking for an answer. We are looking for an external answer to questions: why are we here? What is the right way to live? How do I find my purpose? How do I find my path? What is the best practice to practice? What really is spirituality? Why are there so many spiritual contradictions? Is mind, body and soul separate? Why do we, if we create our own experience, why does suffering come into it? What is free will? What is right and wrong? So there are no specific answers. There are no right and wrong answers that are a general consensus for everyone. There is only what is right for you and what is wrong for you. So there is a lot of contradictory information out in the world, and contradiction, there is nothing wrong with contradiction, because you know, we seem to think that because something contradicts itself that it's bad and it doesn't make sense, so therefore it isn't true or it isn't real. But your truth is your truth, so your truth isn't going to necessarily be the same truth for another person. So it's whatever works for you, whatever spiritual practice works for you, whatever elements of within that spiritual practice works for you, because you might follow shamanism but not all the aspects within shamanism apply to you or are comfortable to you, so they're not your truth. So you take the elements away from that spiritual practice that do serve you. The same with psychotherapy, counselling and cognitive behavioural therapy, things like that. You take away what is your truth, what is true to you, and what helps you, what benefits you, and what doesn't, you allow it to fall away. Because we all look to someone else to give us the answers, when all someone else can do really is give you guidance based on what works for them, what is true to them, and what their experiences have been. So I can share with you my experiences, the tools that I've used to get to where I am, but it might not apply to everyone. It might not be your answer, it might not work for you. So that doesn't make it right, that doesn't make it wrong, it's just what's right and wrong for the individual. And it's about, like I say before, it's about living. We live in this 3D reality, and this 3D reality that we are living in is kind of like, I would explain as the stage of, like in a computer game, you go from one level to another, and this part of our development is understanding what the 3D dimensional reality is and what it teaches us, what it serves us, what it's giving us. It's giving us physical experiences. We are in a physical body, so we are able to experience physical touch between one another. We have a brain, so that we are able to think in the capacity and the restriction of the brain. So we already understand, or we already have the inner knowing of being pure energy and consciousness. We all kind of inside, we know that. But it's about bringing that awareness and developing into that awareness that is the truth for everyone. But as much as we are a collective consciousness and a collective of energy, and we are all from the same source, we are at the moment in this 3D reality a physical 3D translation of that energy. So therefore we are all separate, but we are all connected at the same time. So therefore that's where the contradiction is, because we are separate and we are connected. And being in the 3D experience and the human experience is what allows us to understand and to learn about and discover that, as well as many other things. And sometimes it can get confusing if we're trying to make sense of it and understand it in the way that we are taught is the right way to understand it. So we are taught that if it doesn't make sense, then it's not true, then it's not real. But that isn't true either. It doesn't have to make sense for it to be true. We've all faced certain situations and circumstances where for us, that's our experience, that's our truth, and someone turned around and said, well, that doesn't really make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then it's not true. There's something amiss, there's something awry. But for the person that's saying it, you are not validating their experience, their feelings, and their truth. So if we look into it too much, it can get very confusing and it can overtake your life. You can just be constantly searching for answers, and the only answer really is what feels right for you. So you could come to one of my workshops, two people could come to one of my workshops, one person go away with, that's just not right, I don't agree with that, it's wrong, and another person be like, well, that really helped me, that she's definitely right, spot on with everything, and that really works for them. So neither of those people are right or wrong, and I'm not right or wrong in what I say. It's just whether it works for you in the same way that it works for me, or in another way that it will work for you. It's the way that you interpret it, the translation that comes through. So how I might be saying it might not be how I would interpret it if I were you, but you've interpreted it the way that you've received it. So yeah, I was gonna kind of write it all down on the board, which is what I should probably have done, but I was trying to kind of just go with the flow. I think that things can get too complicated. You can have too many details. So I have decided to do, because I do a workshop, a self-love workshop, and a self and source connection workshop, which is about connecting and realizing your true self aside from your false self, understanding the both. It involves self-love tools and techniques, teachings. Some will include visualization, meditations. Some will be kind of writing goals down on a piece of paper. Because sometimes we go to someone, we get guidance. So someone will sit there and they will tell us, this is the way that I see it, this is the way that I perceive it, and that's the way it is. And you go away and you go thinking, okay, that's fine, but how do I apply that to my life? How do I do? So I'm going to do some videos of exercises that will help from kind of a basic point of view, and then move further along, in the hope that from where you begin, it at least raises your vibration to a next vibration. And it's not going to leap from bad to brilliant, but it's going to slowly improve. And some people will be like, well, no, I just want to get from here to here, and they're not satisfied and they don't feel as though there's been any achievement unless it's been really impactful. But even just the slightest impact and the slightest change is improved your vibration already. So you're already moving in the direction of raising your vibration rather than going backwards. Because if we try to jump too far ahead and then we feel as though we're having an off day, or we haven't quite reached that achievement in the way that we foresaw we would, then we quickly go straight back down. So we go from really bad to really great, from really great to really bad, rather than, okay, I'm feeling a bit better, okay, I'm feeling a bit better still, yep, I'm feeling really, really good, and now I'm feeling great. And then if anything goes wrong, I'm not feeling great, but I'm still feeling quite good. Alright, okay, I'm not feeling that good, but I'm okay. And then going back down. So hopefully we could just go from feeling great to not too good, rather than going from not feeling great to absolutely awful and in the pit. So that is the idea behind it. This is something new that I'm trying. I do usually do one-to-one work, one-to-one sessions, and I tailor each session to each individual. Each session is usually 90 minutes, and I include psychotherapy, psychology, counselling techniques alongside spiritual techniques and practices, and combining and integrating the two. So everything is relevant, because we are a mental, physical and emotional translation of our soul essence, which is our consciousness. And people think that if consciousness is so great and so wonderful, then why has consciousness chose to be in a physical 3D reality to experience all the suffering? The reason for that is because the collective consciousness, source energy, wanted to understand or wanted to experience what it was like to be in the physical body, and what experiences source would get from the physical experience to be able to better understand itself. So like we do, so we sit there and say, well, what are we? Are we this? Are we that? It's the same with source energy. So source energy, in trying to understand itself, has projected out translations of itself to have the experience and development of personal growth to understand who and what it is. So contrast gives that. So to understand the non-physical, you have to experience the physical. To experience the positive, you have to experience the negative. To experience the negative, you experience the positive, blah 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 blah. So to be lost, to understand what it is to be lost, to be found, to be found, to be lost, etc, etc, etc. So it's always about the opposite. So opposites are both true. True and false, black and white, good and bad, night and day, everything is relevant. And it's about letting go of the resistance and what we are trying to find. We're trying to find something, we're trying to discover something that is actually within us. And in our creation of being a physical translation of source energy came the ego and the, I want to say, limbic brain system, where the amygdala exists, and the amygdala is responsible for translating the fight or flight mode, which is this, if someone makes you jump, it's you take in that, and the brain processes whether this is actually something to be scared of. So the ego and the fear system isn't bad. It's a survival mechanism and a survival mode which has actually taken over the rest of the brain systems, the three brains, the limbic, the reptilian, and the I can't remember what it's called. I sound really like I don't know what I'm talking about. The cerebral cortex, I want to say. I'm not sure. I haven't used neurological science for a while, and I don't use that on a day-to-day basis. So basically, rather than us being in control of the ego and the fear system and having the awareness of it, as well as the awareness of the other systems that are in place that enable us to be alive and to survive in the 3D reality that we are in, we need to create the awareness in other aspects of our existence. So the consciousness, as well as the collective consciousness, the individual translation of the collective consciousness, and all the things that go with it. And again, I'm starting to waffle and gone a little bit off track, but the ego has taken over and is in control, kind of like when we see science movies that the robots take over and the computer systems advance themselves and they take control over the world, basically. So the ego has taken over the consciousness and spiritual connection of that consciousness, because we are in the physical body. So the density and the impact of being in the 3D physical translation and dimension has separated our understanding of that consciousness, and in order to protect ourselves and survive in the 3D reality that we are in, the ego has taken over and kind of like being a parent and taking charge. So it's not a bad thing, because, you know, it protects us from danger. So it tells us to run if someone's, you know, chasing us and wants to hurt us. It tells us to move out of the way of a car coming in our direction so that we don't get run over. Many different things. But it can also be overactive and just, yeah, it can just be overpowering. So it's about having the awareness of all different routes and avenues, different systems that there are, and other ways that can be integrated. Everything is supposed to mesh together and work together, rather than just one system being dominating over the others. So I feel as though I'm making it sound a lot more complicated than it is. But what I want to do, what exercises I'm going to do in my videos, and I will do one exercise or one exercise at a time, is to try and help anyone that's watching the video that resonates with feeling confused, feeling in a state of despair, feeling as though they need support, anything really that these exercises can help with. And we're going to start from the basis of how we're feeling right now, as to how we want to feel, and the steps and techniques that we can do to get there. So yes, so many different things. There is so many different things, so many different tools. And there are so many different tools, because not all tools work for same people. So it's about exploring all of them. And the ones that don't work for you and don't sit well with you, don't use them. The ones that do, use them. It doesn't matter what anyone else's opinion is of, you shouldn't be doing it that way, you should be doing it this way. It's whatever you think is right. It's not about what anyone else thinks. So someone in my circle could turn around and say, well, I've got this knowledge from a neuroscience point of view, and this knowledge has really worked for me, and I want to share it with you because I feel as though it can help you. But if that doesn't resonate with me, it's not going to help me. But meditation might help me instead. But that meditation technique might not then apply to that person that uses a neuroscience technique. So when we use different techniques and we integrate them all and mesh them all together, then we can understand what ones work for us and which ones we can choose to then move forward with. And yeah, so that's about it really. So I may have gone on, it may have been a confusing video, I'm really sorry if it has. Please put in the comments below if this wasn't very clear, and I will reapproach my communication on it. And I will possibly do some chart things to better explain and give a little bit more clarity on what it is that I'm trying to say. Other than that, please do join me in the next video for my visualization to soothe your inner self. So thank you very much for listening, and I will see you all again soon. Bye bye.